Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Breakfast and Convos live every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:15 a.m. And I'm your host, Liberty White.
And I am Adeola, digital marketing expert.
All right. Now, we had a heavy conversation on Tuesday and some really good feedback that I know DJ Aquaria was just saying she loved it, just the conversation from us really going into the state of our world and what's happening. But then also we shared a lot of tips. And that's what I love about working with UT is that we bring the balance. We don't no fluff. No fluff.
No fluff. I mean, ain't nobody got time for that. I mean, we are real people with real lives, and this is what's happening. So again, thanks for the comments. Thanks for all of the shares. We really appreciate the engagement because you guys are really why we do this. We human beings, we're social animals, right? And so this whole quarantine situation, we need that, especially as marketers. I'm speaking for myself personally, as a digital marketer, but even as a marketing professional in general, a lot of what we do is socialized. Like we go to conferences and events. You hit the vendor table and you get your free stuff. You know, Google Cup or your ball or whatever. You know your merch because
Right.
we every marketer loves the merch. But now all of a sudden, all of that's literally gone. And we are in conference season. Like conference season runs really from like April clear through September, all into October really. And so now all of that's gone, and so, but anyway, before I get too far off on the tangent, I love working with you as well because you always give the right perspective that sometimes I lack. Not sometimes, most times I lack. But
And vice
and
versa,
great.
and vice versa, because you cut with it hard, and I was like, did T really go there? But yes, he did, and it was necessary.
No, very necessary because this is crazy. This is madness. The fact that we are still having these conversations and still having these issues in 2020, it's just a really good example of sweeping issues under the rug is not cleaning house. The dirt is still there,
Right,
right? The issue is
right.
still there. You just chose to push it, kick it down the can, and not deal with it. And so now that things are actually getting dealt with, I think myself and as well as everybody else, there's still this underlying sense of hope, right? Hope that now that we're all out in the open, there's no more excuses, there's no more errors,
Right.
and like to your point, not to go too far back into it. Now that companies are on a record, you're being tracked now. So so we are going to follow up with you in a year, 2 years, whatever,
Right.
and see how sincere you are. My good buddy of mine, Carlos Gill, he had a human moment where he just told CMOs and CEOs flat out, like, I'm not buying your BS because it's really disingenuous to push your social media teams to put out these hashtags and whatnot. And then I look at your board and there isn't a single person of color, like not one.
Right.
I think out of the current Fortune 500, and I know you bring it out of me, Liberty, and I'll calm down so we can actually get to the points this time. But out of the Fortune 500, currently there are two Black CEOs, two out of 500 of the top Fortune companies. And I think since I want to say 1990, there
Okay.
have been 17. So
Wow.
marinate on that. In 30 years, and for those who don't know, the Fortune 500 is a revolving door. Some you have your Star Wars that stay in, like your WalMarts and your P&Gs, but the other, lower 450, they're always swapping in and swapping out. So
Right.
there's even though they say 500, there are thousands of companies on that list through 1990, and there have been 17 Black
Wow.
CEOs, and then you wonder why companies make these flubs like Pepsi, a few years ago when they had tried to take advantage of social unrest back in 2015, and Kendall Jenner ran out of Pepsi or wherever they did. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
so anyway, Good morning, y'all.
Morning, good morning. No, but that is good because I did. It's interesting. I'm like, wait, was T in that group with me? And I don't think the group in particular that I'm thinking about. But when I got up yesterday, that was one of my thoughts. Was okay. So we thank you for the companies that are stepping out, and as we mentioned in the last episode, if you want to go back, just search the hashtag Breakfast and Convos. We shared a comprehensive list from the plug where they showed what companies and how they responded, how quickly they responded by sharing, whether it be on social or a letter to the public stating their stance on social justice, racial justice, and Black Lives Matter. And in us going through that, the next day I woke up and I was like, all right, so now we see the floodgates opening, and everybody, just kind of like at the beginning of the pandemic, where it was a number of companies jumped out first with their emails and sent emails. Then people I haven't heard from in years started emailing and sharing what their plans are for the pandemic and that we're here together. In that same breath, all of these other companies started coming out on their stance. And while it's great to see that now there is, because this is not the first time that a Black life has been taken by police brutality. But in them doing that, I was just like, is there a watchdog group? And for those who are not familiar with that term, those are groups that are typically they're looking at governments, government agencies, or nonprofits and just how they their fiscal responsibility. But I'm like, is there one that will can this be under their tenant to focus on these corporations that have publicly said we're going to do better, so that it goes beyond when we hear in the news, okay, Facebook, and then Facebook's diversity numbers come out and we hear that it hasn't changed in like 5 years, or the Googles of the world where it's like, no, it has not really changed. Like, is there a group that will be able to let us know? And I'm not even waiting for a year. I'm like 3 months from now, they said they were going to do something. So someone else, not that they said, but that 3 months from now, what's changed? You know, a few months later, it's another 6, 9, 12. Like, I'm looking for some quarterly updates on this. What do you think about that, T? Like, if there was a watchdog group or a group? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally legitimate. And I think that's needed because to the point is that, you know, it's such a stark difference between what they say they stand for and how they actually behave. You know what I mean? So it's just like the country, right? The country says that it's the land of the free and the home of the brave. Yet, you know, Black Americans have never been given a full portion of that freedom. And so you can't sit there and say democracy, 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 and you're murdering your own citizens in public. You're not even shooing them away to a dark corner like the Gestapo or anything. No. You're just doing it in the street. So, and it's the same thing with these far left companies, like we talked about last time. You know, your Googles, your Facebook, your Silicon Valley, they're all in California, all very liberal, and they have all of these grandiose espouse these ideals. But when you look inside the company, it's the same old boys club.
Right.
So you cannot espouse these morals and say that you want to make the world a better place, but you refuse to hire Black executives. And by the way, most of your base is Black people.
Right.
Like you can't do that. And the fact that you've been allowed to do that for so long is preposterous. But I think it's absolutely needed because it's like, and we're, like I said, we've all gotten to the point where boundaries have been violated too much. And it is not a reasonable expectation to think that you can violate someone's boundaries without consequence. And so now one of the manifestations of that is, like you said, a watchdog and being held accountable. It's like, okay, well, you said your morals are this. You said your company stands for this. And here we are 3, 6 months out, whatever amount of time later, and your diversity numbers have not improved at all.
Right.
So
I want to
you're going to
bring
be held
in
to account for that.
bring in Justin Harris. Good morning, Justin, and good morning to everybody who is watching live. And feel free to dive into the conversation. This is where T and I just go back and forth and just sharing, what's happening and what's taking place in the marketing, tech, and business world. And so Justin shares that 100% he's down with it. So thank you, Justin. And so many companies without Black people in leadership positions posting about Black Lives Matter. This needs to change.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Justin.
And really, like I said, we want like leadership. Don't try to do like how the NFL did Jay-Z. Give him like 0.01%, and then he's an owner. Where did no.
Right.
That ain't gonna fly. Okay, don't do that. Like if you're gonna do it, and if you're not, don't. But all we're saying is don't be a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? Like this, and that's what I really want people to hear us on. It's not about forcing you to do something you're not comfortable with. It's not about
Right.
Us dominating, because that's what the misunderstanding is. No, we're saying don't espouse this moral, then behave that way. You're right. That's the issue. You cannot say that we're the land of the free and the home of the brave, and then treat your Black citizens like a third world nation. You can't do that. It doesn't match. So all we're saying is it has to match.
Yeah, it is. I like that you said that, because it's a great segue to just showing like this. I'm in Atlanta, you're in Ohio, and then just even thinking about like this is not just a US, like these lives that have been lost, that this is an issue in other countries as well, and other countries showing solidarity. Like I saw New Zealand, I saw Paris, I saw France, and their streets were, I just like got chills. Their streets were flooded with people. And I saw this yesterday that actually came across my feed. And this is a newspaper organization in Toronto, Canada. And they shared that OCAD, which is a arts design school, much like SCAD. SCAD is locally here, but then a couple of other locations as well. But in 144 years, there have been no full-time Black employees at a prestigious, like this is, I remember back in the day, some of my like top tier design friends, they went to OCAD. And and that's the thing too, is that in us. So shout out to Buy Blacks for sharing that information and the importance of these the local media to share those things, because that's when people are concerned that, okay, now all of a sudden you're going to just have one ethnicity that they're automatically going to get hired or automatic. No. That's not what we're saying. It is things like this, 144 years. And you were saying essentially what you've said is there are no qualified higher education, talented designers, developers that can teach your school 144 years.
Yeah, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable, especially and I'm glad that other nations are holding America accountable, because of America's political and socioeconomic standing in the global community, we tend to be able to get our way in a lot of things. But it's like you can't go around touting democracy, freedom, and you're unjust. Like you can't do that. And so again, now, like you said, we really want folks to hear us on this, because whenever you're privileged, and whenever what's her name? Ngozi, she's a poet. She's a Nigerian poet. She's a feminist as well. Gave a TED talk that just went viral. And Ngozi Adichie, I want to say, I'm not, maybe not be pronouncing her.
I know who you're referring to.
But she says that privilege comes with, part of privilege is not understanding that you're privileged. Like that's a part of it. Like being blind is a part of privilege. And so whenever you're brought to rights, it feels like oppression, but it's really not, because this whole time you thought you had an A+, and really the teacher was grading on an extreme curve, and you have a C minus.
Oof.
And that's a very difficult thing for someone to digest. This whole time they thought that they were good and they had an A plus, and then we got the scroll this time. Okay, like, I'm sorry. Listen, I'm easily distracted. I was like, "Ooh, squirrel!" And it just, but the production value is just
Let me
so
go ahead
high.
and pull
Keep
that
going.
back.
But no. Keep it going. Keep it going. But yeah, when you think you're good, but you're not, that's that's a shot. But all we're saying is, again, if you're a bigot, you're free to be a bigot, but just don't say you're not a bigot. like be who you say you're gonna be. You can't
Right.
say that, oh, we're this, democracy, freedom and justice, and then you're killing black people in the street like that. Nah.
Yeah.
No. But here we are, 15 minutes in. We did it again, Liberty. But
Well, as we go, and I think that this goes like right into, and we have a way of doing that. It goes right into even some of the organizations. So that was, I just shared that, even though that was in Canada, that I don't know if I know you live on Twitter, so you might have seen this already, but just Ben and Jerry's, they put out a statement that is the statement of all statements. And I'm not just saying here, it goes into, and we'll put that in the show notes, it goes into a thread where they clearly outline, like, not only are we against what's happening, but here are some of our recommendations. And like, that's how you do it. That's how you
that's how
go,
you
and
do
you
it.
take it even further. That shows that you are invested. And let's pull it back. Let's pull it back for a second. Yes, we are talking about the current state of our nation and our world, but let's take it back to just overall digital marketing, or social media marketing, or just if you are going to try to be relevant or try to take a stance on whatever the topic that is relative to your audience, then just make sure, like, people can smell when you're not being genuine and when you're not being authentic. So for them to, just like a lot of the flags are going for a lot of people, there are some in the business, some venture capitalists that have come out and said, and I'm putting it out there, not saying names, but we're going to pledge 2.2 million to startups and Black and underserved startups. 2.2 million in the startup space is nothing.
Nothing. It's an insult, really. But to your point, I love that Ben and Jerry's did this because rage is not a strategy, and burning stuff down is not a strategy either, unless you work for the fire department and you just need more volume. But
Right.
like, that was a poor joke. I'm sorry, but
I was
sometimes I
with
try
you
to
though. I
be.
ran with it. Like,
But
so I
yeah,
was there. I was your laugh track.
but and I appreciate that. But yeah, I love that there's actually steps being outlined, because it goes deeper than just being pissed off and then not knowing what to do. And
Right.
again, a lot of these issues are solvable.
Yeah.
Because we didn't wake up and get to this point. It took a while for things to get this bad. Right. And
Right.
so there were clearly steps along the way that were missed, and now we are in the opportunity to make things right. Good morning. Sit down right here. And so hold on for a second. Oh,
No
just
worries. No
got
worries.
company. But yeah, this is and again, going back to my man Carlos Gill, like it stinks to high hell. It just stinks to high hell whenever companies try to make themselves relevant, push their social media teams to do things that aren't on brand, and then because it's disingenuous. But for the companies who have long taken a stance, like Ben and Jerry's, like Nike, I mean, they're going to reap the benefits because this is true to their brand.
Right. Right. All right, everyone. Again, you are watching Breakfast and Convos. Thank you for joining us. And if you are a replay watcher, go ahead and just hit that replay. And we go back to our threads and engage. So if there are any questions or comments, feel free to share them with us. And we broadcast live at 7:15 a.m. each and every Tuesday and Thursday morning. So we are just recapping just the past 48 hours and just sharing what we are seeing in the landscape. So let's see here. We've got a comment from, okay, so Justin again. So yeah, the 4 steps outlined our authentic language that made Ben and Jerry's statement extremely relevant and meaningful. So yeah, that's what we need to see more.
Amen, amen. Hey, we see you, Jane. Thanks so much for commenting.
All right, T. So I know we missed some of the, because we were so hot. We were on fire on Tuesday. So
We're
what do
still
you
on fire, and we're gonna
right.
stay on fire just like the cities until they get this right,
That
because
was a good
this
one.
is ridiculous. You know,
Yeah.
hey, relax. Okay, sorry, I got my cheerleader from
That's
the
fine,
side
because
all
this is
riled
where
up
we
as
are,
well.
right? We let we're at home broadcasting. We're doing remote live streaming, and as parents, so we've got kids around.
Yep, that's what happens. But yeah, so one of the things that we have spoken about previously is some of the winners and the losers in terms of the context of COVID-19. And of course,
Right.
one of the big winners has been Amazon, but it hasn't all been sunshine and roses, because there are levels to Amazon and in the commerce space in general that I'm
Right.
just going to kind of quickly address into some of the signs that we've seen from Amazon. So in the commerce space in general, in the terrestrial world that we all occupy, Walmart is the big dog, right?
Right.
So I want to say, and quote me on this, I want to say that 90% of America lives within 10 miles of a Walmart. Like, think about that for a second. That's staggering. Like, no matter where you go in this country, even if you're rural, you're still within 10 miles of a Walmart. Like, and that 10% that's not within 10 miles of a Walmart, that's like Alaska or in Nova Scotia somewhere. Like that's you. You're not like you're out in the booms. And
Yeah.
so, but online, the big dog, and it stop poking me. Thank you. The big dog in the space is Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I even read that they've added more to their. And I know that's not as part of your news piece, but they've added more like fleets, like planes, because they've been upping. I think they're now up to 80, and with COVID, that's part of their whole making sure that they can get their packages out on time.
Right. No, well, that is part of it, because like Amazon was inundated with demand just like everybody else, right? And so ship times went from, we'll be at your house in a few hours to, okay, we're not going to ship that at all because right now we need essentials. But Amazon is showing signs that they're about to hit the gas again. Excuse me, they're about to hit the gas again, because their shipping times are getting back to that super fast shipping, and the
Okay.
delays aren't as bad. Now, something that has been talked about ad nauseum in certain, circles is that Amazon sort of lost share in online during COVID to Walmart and some other terrestrial retailers like Target, because what Target and Walmart have in their favor is that you can buy something online and then go to your local store and pick it up if they have it in stock. Amazon can't really do that because Amazon doesn't have the same terrestrial footprint. And Amazon, Walmart, and Target, their online things, they've grown significantly. But for a little bit of context, a lot of the you sort of have to know statistics and how the numbers work to really put that in context. Because something that's been reported is that, okay, well, Amazon only grew 20% in Q1, whereas Walmart.com grew 40%. But you have to understand what's known as the law of large numbers and how that impacts those percentages, because Amazon's online e-commerce business is 6 or 7 times larger than Walmart's. So even though in percentage wise it wasn't as big as a growth, that 20% is orders of magnitude larger than
Hmm.
Walmart's, because it's spread across such a larger base.
Okay.
right? So,
Okay.
um, but to their point, um, Amazon, yeah, I'll just go ahead and say it. Amazon missed utilizing Whole Foods during this time because Whole Foods gave Amazon that terrestrial footprint, and Whole Foods has physical stores. And for whatever
So
reason,
can you take it back for a second, the
mm,
significance of Whole Foods? Because some people might not remember that news a few years ago when that happened.
right. So Amazon purchased Whole Foods, the grocery store, several years ago, and for whatever reason, um, they haven't strategically they haven't put Whole Foods to the fore because what Whole
Mm,
Foods brought to the table is a terrestrial footprint. Like that's what it brought to the table. Not only a terrestrial footprint, but a terrestrial footprint that had the type of customer that Amazon wanted. So they could integrate into that, but for whatever reason, they haven't really done that.
mm,
They've tried different iterations of Amazon Go stores and different physical locations, but they haven't really utilized Whole Foods to its fullest potential because, as we've seen in the context of COVID, when it comes down to the come down, what people need are groceries. Like, forget all the other, periphery stuff. We
right.
need food. And so, if people go to the grocery store, that's an excellent time to get information about their shopping habits, what they deem as important, blah blah blah. And Amazon hasn't really taken full advantage, and they've made it very clear by just the way that they've tried different things like Amazon lockers and all this other stuff that strategically Whole Foods is not as important as it could or maybe should have been. And that, like I said, in the context of COVID, that was a miss because click and collect, where again, or some people call it BOPUS, which is a terrible acronym. It stands for buy online, pick up in store. Um, but the ability to purchase something online, then literally drive down, pull up, in Kroger, put your groceries in the trunk of your car. You don't even have to get out the car. They
Right.
just pull up and you just pull up into your assigned part. They, you confirm that you're there on the phone. They come out, you pop the trunk, they put the groceries in the trunk, and you're on your way.
Right.
That's what having a terrestrial footprint does for you. And that's what Whole Foods was supposed to bring to the table. But for whatever reason, Amazon has not really integrated that strategically. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And question for the audience: do you think Amazon is going to regain its market share and its swagger for those customers that they lost to the Krogers and to the WalMarts, or is it too late? And that's the big question, right? Because now that this trend has accelerated and people are shopping online and they are utilizing buy online, click and collect. Is it will that behavior stick, and will they
Right.
now stay going to Kroger and letting Kroger do the shopping, or will they go back to Amazon and Whole Foods, which is the big question because that's really the tug of war between those two titans. Amazon is the big dog online and is trying to get a foothold in the terrestrial world, whereas Walmart is the big dog in the terrestrial world and is trying to get a foothold online.
Yeah, that is. I always say interesting. I keep when I watch the playback, I'm like, that's interesting. And I'm like, I need to find another word besides saying that is interesting. But to just behavior, and I'm going to say I've even learned this in our time together, is behavior is hard to change. So just knowing that we are in the midst of something that is not only traumatic but is changing how we do things, like even though this, we're talking about Amazon and Walmart right now, but for just to make it really easy, how many companies are you really going to go back into the office? Like, companies are changing that for folks, that now they will be able, we're going to see much more people working from home because like now we've had the experience, we know that it can happen, and people are going to be able to make that decision. So I said all of that to say the behavior is like, I really think Amazon has lost share. and that they will have to come up with something that either has some more creativity or more so being functional for us. But yeah, Walmart's doing the thing.
Yeah, the Walmart, Kroger, Target, all the retailers with this was really like the revenge of the terrestrial retailer, right? Because they really showcase why it's important to have a physical location even in a digital world, because it just augments everything and it makes it really, really easy to get what you need. Because like I said, strategically, Amazon missed on Whole Foods. They just straight up underutilized it. And they're so big that I don't think underutilizing Whole Foods is gonna sink Walmart by it, not Walmart, but Amazon by any stretch of the imagination. But it was definitely a miss. We see you, Justin. Nearest Walmart is 5 miles away from you. Yeah, even though hey, daddy's talking. Relax, I'm almost done, okay? But but yeah, so not utilizing Whole Foods the way that they could. Thank you, Jane. We appreciate you. Yeah, they just Amazon just flat missed. It was a miss. They could
Right.
have done, and that's what one of the articles goes into. They could have done so much. They could have instead of making people wait in line, you could reserve shopping time. So you already you pay a little fee, or even make it a benefit for free. Like, just you shop from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and that's your time to shop. You go in, you show them your smartphone. Okay, I reserve my time. This is what I want. Or having prepackaged meals that, okay, you're even though you're home, you got 4 kids and a husband in a yard that's overgrown. You got to cut the
Right.
grass. You're
Right.
still a busy person. So having those prepackaged meals, they can just grab and go. Or you can have, like I said, have somebody do the shopping for you. So literally all you do is pull into a parking space, say, click, okay, I'm here, pop the trunk. You ain't got to get out the car. We put the groceries in the car. Boom, you're done. Kroger did all of that. Whole Foods did none of that. And so, well, not all of that. They didn't have you reserve shopping times, but as far as like having the shopping done for you, every time I come to Kroger, those four at the Kroger up the street from me, those four parking lots, those four parking spaces are full, or
Right.
folks coming in and out, and there's a steady stream of they're just pushing out carts of groceries, popping them in folks' trunk, having them sign that they received the groceries, and then they're on their way. There's no reason Whole Foods could not have done that. They just dropped the ball. So yeah, interesting times, interesting times. But again, Amazon's gonna be just fine. Like don't cry too many tears for poor Amazon, because they're doing just fine. But yeah, in the winners and losers, there's always going to be hits and misses, and this is some of them. So not sure if Amazon potential is everything is great thing. Daddy's trying to read now. Okay, just hold on for a sec. We're almost done. What about the small mom and pops? The law of percentages was interesting. Seeing the bigger picture. Yeah, man. Yeah. So that is a tough question. And there's two sides to every coin, and there's no denying that the sheer size of your Walmarts and your Amazons have pushed out a lot of smaller retailers and smaller players who simply can't compete. And so yeah, small businesses, especially terrestrial small businesses, has been suffering, but that has not gone unnoticed by your chambers of commerce and your SBDCs, your small business development centers.
That's so
And
true.
I mean, Liberty even talked about she applied for a grant and got it. And so it's a problem. I mean, no two ways to that. But
And
yeah,
then
it's something that's definitely on the radar.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for chiming in. This is a hot topic here. So Ashia has said that I've been waiting for Whole Foods and Amazon partnership to crystallize beyond just the use of Prime in stores. It definitely shows a strategic blind spot. And Ashia, great point. And hopefully we might need to tag Amazon on this episode so that they can just see, the streets are watching. People are, it's a service that they've been looking forward to. There's a big splash when that acquisition was made, and how that can be brought to the forefront, how this is the time for that to come forward. And Ashia, I did want to point out, thank you. So Ashia is an educated,
Intriguing or compelling. I like
right?
that. That's compelling. I like that. Thank you. Thank you. That's good.
Yes, and she's an educator as well as a writer, and so and a strategist. So that's just coming out of there. It's like, there's my wordsmith there, just helping out. So again, everyone, you are watching Breakfast and Combos, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. I do want to get into, and I guess we're kind of going back to the beginning a little bit, but that I don't know if you also saw as a part of some of the companies that are doing their part in this whole social justice or social injustice, that Warner Brothers, they released Mercy Me, which is a movie about someone who was wrongfully accused, and it was released last year, but now they have it for free. They've got it out there so that you are able to watch it, and I want to make sure that I pull that up so that people can. And I remember seeing a friend in. Now I've yet to watch it, and I remember seeing so many people talking about it, and a friend who's in Canada who says, if you are a man, and if you are a Black man, that you need to sit down and watch this, because it goes through systemic racism. And we're definitely, we want to know from anyone, have you watched Mercy Me, and will you watch it now that it is out there for free, and that is Warner Brothers doing their part to say, hey, we want to be a part of the solution, and we want to help with the education piece of what's happening. Because I remember too, like, the as marketers, digital marketers, just even looking at the campaign that they rolled out, and not only they did some out of home content, and then just online, and the lead up. I know that there were a lot of ads that I saw on my timeline. I don't recall how well it did though, so it will be compelling. It will be interesting to see what those numbers look like, and if they publish the numbers. They might not, because in this case, unless it's going to be a big win for them, but to just see how many people take them up on that. And it will also be, I'm looking forward to seeing the audience makeup, because right now what we're also seeing with all of this, with Black Lives Matter bubbling, and with the protests bubbling to the forefront, that there are people of other ethnicities, and specifically we've been calling out for allies. So it'll be interesting to see the makeup of the viewers. I don't know if they can do that on the platform, but they can maybe do it from a geographic standpoint, from looking at zip codes. But to see, okay, when it was marketed to the African American audience, but then now to see with this re-release or free release, if those numbers will change from its original release, and we'll know there'll be a change because it's free. So that part, that's
a
the
good
easy
call out. That's a very good call out, and I hope they do, like, tag Warner Brothers in this too, because that's going to be very interesting to see. Because the something that's come to the fore is that a lot of white Americans just don't know how bad it is. Like they don't know something. A study that came out a few years ago is that most white Americans don't have any Black friends. So they don't really understand, because from their perspective, it's like, well, everybody has a computer and everybody has a smartphone and everybody has this. Well, first things first, everybody, our everybody and your everybody look very different. Okay.
Right.
So when you say everybody, you're thinking of yourself. You're not necessarily thinking about us, and our experiences are very different. And so my hope is that it will be watched by other people, because that will give some much needed education and maybe some sensitivity. Like me personally, I do plan to watch it, but I have to watch it with my aunts or a friend or something. I can't watch it by myself. I'm gonna need some emotional support. Like I'm gonna need
Right.
some emotional support, because like as a Black, I get so angry. I get so angry. I get absolutely furious, and I'm gonna need somebody to hold me down and level me out and talk me off the ledge, because it's like, this is crazy. But I really
And
do
see,
it.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to
That
jump in for a second because I realized that the previous graphic said, well, while I said just mercy, it didn't. So just bringing that question again, and thank you so much, Jane. And see, this is why I love that our show is interactive. So our audience also being a part of keeping us honest, as T says. But yes, we want to know, will you watch Just Mercy? So I'm sorry, T. I just wanted to make sure that I brought that back
no,
out
you're fine.
for folks.
You're fine. But no, my sincere hope is that, like you said, our white allies and people of a different life experience will watch it. That way you won't have, like, take Drew Brees, for example, his comments.
Yes,
That's
please.
obviously coming from someone who's lived a very sheltered life.
Right.
Even though he works with a lot of Black men, Drew Brees don't have a clue. Drew Brees does not have a clue. And it's like, and just the sheer callousness of his statements, it really, brings to the fore the sentiment that, America loves what Black people produce, but hates us. So it's like, shut up and play ball, shut up and dance, shut up and sing, but don't do any of that when I'm trying to enjoy my sports.
Right.
So, but that's the point of a protest, right? The point of a protest is that it's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to disrupt the norm. And for the record, protesting is uncomfortable for the protesters. I mean, do you honestly think that Martin Luther King just woke up one day and was like, you know what? Let me go get spit on. Let me go get beat with a bat and dog sicked on me and sprayed down by a hose and
Right.
and booed everywhere I go. That sounds like that's not, no. Nobody thinks that way. But it's necessary to jar people out of their sense of comfort. And as long as the Drew Brees is in the world, and let me be very clear, Drew Brees is entitled to his opinion. White Americans who ain't on board are entitled to their opinions. But the point I'm making is that that comes from a place of ignorance. You do not know. And because you do not know, you cannot care. So hopefully this movie will sort of, oh, that happened? Is
Right.
that really the case? There's levels to consciousness, and it's a journey for everybody. Believe me, I didn't wake up one day. I didn't pull a Beyonce, wake up one day and be this fiery. I had to go through my own process as well. So
Right.
I'm sincerely hopeful that this video does that.
Yeah. And Ashia just says that it's a great film. So it's good to hear for those that have watched it. It's a great film to share with allies who want education. I've seen it shared in that context. I don't have the emotional wherewithal to watch it.
Me either. Like I said, I'm gonna need some help. I'm gonna need some support. I can't do it by myself. I can't.
Right.
I'm too low. I'm too drained. I'm too tired. I I watch my son sleep, which every parent does. I know it sounds creepy, but all parents do that. I watch my son sleep, and I'm near tears,
Yeah.
because even though he's precocious and he has this big attitude and is I want and give me that, he's such a sweet, loving, inquisitive, smart boy. And as I sit there and I watch him sleep, the idea that someone would suffocate him in public,
Yeah.
it's incomprehensible. It's mind-boggling. And I have two sons. I have two sons and a daughter. My oldest is 10. My oldest Elijah is 10. My daughter's 6, and then my youngest that you just saw is 4. And so I have 2 black males and a black female.
Yeah.
And it's like when I watch them sleep, it's like, how? How can this be? You know what I mean? But yeah, share the film out. Share the film. Have a watch party. Support each other.
Ooh,
Because,
that's
like I said, I'm
good.
gonna need some help.
Have a watch party. And like Jane says here, that I can say the marketing company for JustMercy did advertise in the faith-based social justice magazine I work with, for whose audience is predominantly white. So
Well done.
kudos
Well done.
on them for, we might have to have like a follow-up segment to where we just, even after we'll give it a week or so of people watching it and come back and see, apart from Warner Brothers announcing it with other marketing. So, we tie it in. We tie in the social commentary in addition to the tactical side of things, and how people have been, how these companies are engaging with their audiences. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning for Breakfast and Convos. We will, this has been an interesting week for everybody. So,
to put it mildly.
Mildly,
Yes. Mildly. It's been a very compelling week, for sure.
A compelling week. So we look forward to coming back to you. I'm going to see there's like one more comment from Jane here, where she says, I think the point of the film is to empower its audience with examples of overcoming the system, showing a hero who looks like us, not a white savior, and some steps and things we can do. So the timeliness of it not only is that a win for Warner Brothers, but it is a win for us, because that's what we need to see. And we're going to continue to have the conversation next week, Tuesday at 7:15 a.m. where we have some guests lined up that we will, because and that, I think that's part of why I said that this week has been interesting, because it's just we haven't really had just you and me for episodes back to back. So that was refreshing and also necessary conversationally wise for our viewers and for our new viewers. So thank you. And as Justin says, he can't wait till next week, Tuesday, 7:15 a.m. everyone. So
thank you, Justin. Thank you, Ashia. Thank you, Jane, and everybody else who comment. You are who we do this for. We need you guys as much as you enjoy us. So thank you so much for commenting. We appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Well, we're going to sign off, everyone. So again, if you're watching the replay, thank you. For all of our live viewers, again, thank you. I'm Liberty White.
And I am T. Adeola.
And you've been watching Breakfast and Convos. Bye-bye.